Hi, and welcome back to another episode of The Wealth Clock, where we break down strategies, systems, and mindsets by elite investors. My guest today, Andrew Izyumov. He spent years on the front lines of global capital markets as a principal investing director at Goldman Sachs. After underwriting major institutional deals and making early stage angel bets in over 20 startups, he set out to bridge the gap between institutional wealth management and private investors as the founder and CEO of Eight Figures. Today, we're doing a deep dive into his origin story. We're going to ask some personal questions. We're going to ask him where he's from, and we're going to ask him how he got here. Andrew, thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks a lot, Steven. Thanks for having me here.
Okay, before we start, tell me, where are you right now?
I'm in the Bay Area, in the city called San Mateo.
Okay, yeah, sure. I guess most people will call it the San Francisco area or Silicon Valley. At least that's what here in New York is what I would call it. Tell me about Goldman Sachs. When did you start? How old were you? How did you get that job? Was it your first job out of college? Talk to me about Goldman Sachs. Goldman Sachs is a behemoth. You know, people are dying to get a job over there, and you had it, and you were there for quite a few years. Tell the audience how you got that job at Goldman Sachs.
Right. Well, I landed an internship at KPMG, the Big Four audit firm, straight out of college. And then back in 2009, I got into Goldman, first as an intern again. And then I grew through the ranks up to the executive director position when I left the firm in 2021.
Wow. So you got there in 2009. This is during a global recession. I know Goldman Sachs definitely bailed out quite a few companies back then. So Goldman Sachs was in the news a lot back then. You were based in San Francisco back then when you got the job with Goldman, or were you somewhere else?
I was based in Moscow, Russia, but
wow.
I was a part of the Global Special Situations Group. That was the name back then, with major offices in New York, London, and Asia. So we got this kind of global presence, and it's effectively principal investing arm inside bigger bank.
So Goldman Sachs does have an office in Moscow.
It used to have.
Used to have. Is this is this until the Ukrainian war, or is this, you know?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. The Ukrainian war in 2022 kind of triggered exit the bank from the country. So they gradually kind of phased out the operations and eventually exited. But I left the bank back in 2021 before that started.
Got it. Yeah, I do remember there was this mass exodus of everything Russian back then. A lot of people, innocent people, had a lot of things pulled out from under the rug just by being Russian. I guess that was going to be my next question. Where's your accent from? But I guess you answered that very well. So you were in Russia. You're now in the San Francisco area. You got here recently. You're traveling. What does your day look like? What zip code do you call home?
Right. Yeah. Right now I'm traveling. My co-founder is based here in the Bay Area, in San Francisco, if you wish, and I'm kind of traveling a lot, but I'm based in Cyprus. That's a Mediterranean island next to Greece, Israel, Turkey, Egypt. If you've been there, I'm not sure. It's a relatively small island, but it's a part of European Union. It's relatively well developed with a relatively good infrastructure and ecosystem there, and a lot of companies based there actually, with global operations, including in the US.
Yeah, I travel to Israel a lot, and I know there's quite a few companies that are based in Cyprus. I guess they have good tax advantages compared to other countries. Cyprus is definitely a beautiful country. I've never been there yet. I've been to about 35 countries, but I've not made it to Cyprus yet. But I guess one of these days. Tell me about.
It's just a short flight from Israel to Cyprus, just 40 minutes.
Yeah, no, I know. Actually, my son was spending a year in Israel, and when the flights were canceled because of the Iranian war, in order to get people out of the country, they were just doing short flights. So people were either flying to Cyprus. I think some people took a boat to Cyprus. My son had that option. He ended up driving about 12 hours to Cairo, or maybe it was even more than 12 hours, and took a flight out of Cairo. But that was about a year ago, maybe a little more. Oh, it was about a year ago.
Right.
Okay. Talk to me about your company, Eight Figures. How did you start it? Why is it called that? I guess I could figure out why it's called that. So tell me about this company. What do you guys do, and how'd you get involved?
Sure. We are building AI investment advisor and net worth tracker. Basically, our app enables private self-direct investors to track all their assets in one place. So you can connect all your accounts, broker, bank, crypto, real estate, and see this all in one place with all the metrics like IRRs and dividends and coupons for bonds. So basically every single metric you care about. And then on top of that, you've got AI investment team. What I mean by that, we have AI agents that are trained as portfolio manager, risk officer, tax advisor, portfolio planner, equity research analyst. In each of those agents, they analyze your portfolio from every angle, talk to each other, and come up with useful recommendation to improve the quality of your capital management.
Is there a lot of regulatory when it comes to the AI advisor part of the business?
Absolutely. As you know, financial advice is a regulatory field, and that's why we've got SAC registration. So we are registered investment advisor, and this is part of what we do.
Is this business targeting Americans for now, or is it global?
It's global, but the biggest part of our users is from the US. And answering your second question about the name, basically 8 figures, stands for the amount starting from $10 million. And from our perspective, this is about the right net worth where you start feeling this kind of financial freedom. That's therefore the name is coming from there.
Got it. Okay, yeah, no, I figured 8 figures had to do with something along those lines. Who is the target audience for this company? Is it somebody who's only worth $10 million? If somebody has $1.5 million spread out among, 12 different accounts, is he able to be a client? Is the 8 figures just something aspirational, but yet even somebody who makes $35,000 a year is able to sign up for the app?
Absolutely. 8 figures, as I said, is more of an aspirational target for people. You can pretty much start using it with any net worth, but we see most of our users, they are within, let's say, 100K to $1 million range in terms of their net worth. There are, some higher earners as well, but, most of the people, they fall into that range. And the reason for that is, you got to start thinking strategically about your portfolio, about your capital earlier on if you want to hit those, let's say, 8 figures targets.
Oh, yeah. Being that this is AI based, I'm going to guess, and I could be wrong, so excuse me if I'm wrong. I'm going to guess that most of the people who are interested in using your service, your app, your website, I'm going to guess that these are people who are younger. Somebody who's maybe in their 20s, possibly their 30s. I'm going to guess that most people in their 60s or 70s, even though if they're fully involved in tech, they may not either trust or, it's hard to change people's behaviors. They've been doing well for 30 years, 40 years before this came out. Who is your target in terms of age? I'm assuming, anybody who wants to sign up, you would let, but who do you feel, you have the most success and conversion? Is it the young people, as they say?
I would say the range is between 25 years old to 50. That's roughly the range. And the reason for that is before 25, you probably don't have that much to track, to analyze, to invest. You're still just trying to, make your first money, land a good job, and so on and so forth. And as you correctly said, after 50, some people, even though we do have users older than that, but some people are not, maybe as good with technology, or they have, their financial advisors they've been working on with like for 20 plus years, and it's not that easy for them to just switch to some new tool, to try a new tool, and so on.
I got it. What are the fees involved? Is there a free option? Is there different tiers based on how much you're worth or how much you're taking out of the service? Talk to me about some of the fees involved.
Sure. We made our investment, or we call it net worth tracker, free. So you can track literally every account, every investment for free. But then we charge only $20 a month subscription for AI advice. So it's relatively inexpensive if you compare to to the regular, let's say, financial advisor that would charge you at least 1% of assets under management and probably offer you some other, let's say, funds or notes, structured notes on top where even higher fees are embedded. So, we are trying to actually democratize access to high quality financial advice. A lot of people, they see that kind of minimum threshold of 500K or $1 million net worth before they can even start talking to financial advisor. For us, we are open to everyone, so you can start tracking and get AI investment advice with any net worth.
Got it. So somebody signs up, maybe they use it first as a tracker. They have the free option, I guess in the computer app business, there's something, we give away for free, and hopefully, there's a percentage that actually converts. Some people call it the freemium model, where you give something free to enough people, and all you need is, 1, 2, or 10% to convert into a paying customer to make it a viable business. We see that with just about everything. We see that with apps. There's games that are for free. Candy Crush, it has 1 billion players. All you need is, 1% paying for, extra coins or candies or whatever it is that my kids are always asking me to buy them. And, that makes the business model. So, with your service, you could have somebody sign up, get the tracker, be comfortable with it, start adding in all their accounts. Maybe they have 2 different brokerage accounts. Maybe they play with some crypto. Maybe they have some retirement accounts. And as time goes on and they feel more comfortable, if they like the app, if they like the interface, they can just sign up and start getting advice from AI.
Absolutely. That's the perfect summary. I would only add, maybe relevant for your audience, we also have relatively advanced tracking of real estate. So you can literally see your levered returns, unlevered returns. You can effectively link mortgage to your property. You can see home equity. So you can add cash flows. This is all there as well. And then you eventually can see the returns the professional investors do. The way I did it back at Goldman, we try to replicate that in our app as well. Maybe in a bit simplified way. Of course, we don't have we don't have enough space for long spreadsheets inside the mobile app, but some basic core metrics like levered and unlevered returns and IRRs with all the cash flows we model there for every single investment.
Okay, so that actually is something I'm interested in, especially when you mentioned the real estate. In terms of aggregating different brokerage accounts, I've seen that before. I've seen that, I think 20 years ago, with you could have multiple brokerage accounts, multiple bank accounts, maybe some credit cards. I think there was an app, tried to think, this could be 25 years ago. Maybe it was called Yodlee, Yodlee. Maybe it's still around, maybe it's not. It may be the back end of some other company systems. I do remember that, I'm in the real estate space in all different aspects of real estate. Yes, I own some stocks. Yes, I have a Roth IRA. Yes, I have some retirement accounts, etc. Obviously, I have bank accounts. But as far as real estate, there's so many different variables. I mean, so many. I could own, 2 single family homes that both have a mortgage and, has rental income. We could plug in the value of it minus my mortgage balance, etc. How do we plug in? And maybe maybe it can't be done. But what if I'm an investor into other people's real estate? So, hey, I invested $100,000 into this $25 million apartment complex. I'm just a small piece of the action. They raised, $10 million or $7 million. I'm just $100,000. Yes, the value is worth 25 million or 30 million. But again, I'm just a small piece. How does, and maybe I'm wrong, how does this get integrated, or can it be integrated?
Well, unlike your brokerage account, we usually can't connect directly to that GP or operator that runs that effectively a real estate fund. Typically it's structured as a fund, but you can add that manually. And typically, if you have such a small sliver of a bigger fund, you record it as such, as a fund investment rather than a real estate investment. Because for real estate investment, you can have a share, like, I don't know, you bought a home 50-50 with someone else. You can obviously outline your share and then see like returns for your share and so on. But if you are just a small, let's say, investor in a bigger fund, then you just have effectively a fund position. And then for the fund, the metrics are I know that rings the bell, like MOIC, like multiple invested capital, or TVPI, the DPI. There are different metrics, fund-specific metrics, and the underlying investment could be real estate, it could be venture capital, it could be private equity. It's pretty much, indifferent in terms of tracking. Of course, if you want to go into details of the real estate asset specifically that was bought by that fund, well, then you can probably just kind of model it separately. It's not part of of your position. It's more of a bigger kind of an analysis or exercise to model it properly, maybe even in Excel. You can probably add it as a separate real estate with really tiny share, like 2%. Oh, I own 2% of that complex, but I would rather track it as in terms of asset class as a fund investment.
Got it. So this would have to be done manually because unlike Schwab or Fidelity, there's no global interface for you to either log in or for me to log in or to get an API or some sort of login token. These types of investments would need a manual way of doing it. Am I correct?
There's only one way to automate real estate. You can get Zillow data, like, Zestimate and all their kind of particular real estate properties, including the like rough valuation. You can get that. But beyond that, as you said, there are no APIs or automation or the way to like plug in your real estate and that will automatically calculate.
I got it. Yeah. I I haven't done it in a while, but years ago I used to, play with some of these aggregators. And since I'm mostly in real estate, it was very, there was no way. I don't think back then they even offered, the manual way of doing it. It was either Fidelity or Schwab or Chase Bank or Capital One or, nothing. So yeah, when it came to real estate, it was very hard to, just see those kind of snapshots. Now, in terms of the AI offering advice, so just walk me through this. Since I'm inputting all my information into the system, into the program, into the app, I'm putting, I guess it knows my age, probably knows my location. It knows roughly, where my money is and what I'm invested in. And when I ask the AI for advice, it's going to base the research will be done on my specific net worth. And then it will give me different ideas. How does that work? Is it going to only look at what I do? And then, do I ask questions like, hey, I have an 18-year-old, I'm about to pay for college. I'm single. I'm never getting married. And, I could care less about saving for the future. How does the AI, other than reading all my accounts and data, how does it know, what I'm interested in, what I'm looking to do? Hey, I'm, looking to save up for a sports car. Hey, I'm looking to never spend a penny because I want to, take it to the grave with me. How does that work?
Right. Well, apart from seeing your portfolio, we obviously have investor profile where you outline your financial goals, your time horizon, your risk tolerance, and so on. But also we have memory, like similar to what you have in your, let's say, GPT chat or whatever other LLM you use. We also have memory. So the more you talk to your AI investment advisor, the more it knows about you. And that also serves as a context for all other AI agents to give you better advice. The questions you've been asking right now about financial planning, well, we have AI financial planner that does exactly that, builds your financial plan and analyzes your portfolio from financial planning perspective. But maybe then you might have a question about your portfolio allocations, your diversification of your portfolio, and whether you got to do something about it. Or maybe you want to model a stress test scenario. What if AI goes down? Like, what if AI investments do not pay off as people currently expect, and the market goes, 30% down? What's going to happen with your specific portfolio, with your specific exposures? You might be want to model that, and you might or might not want to do something about it. So all these kind of questions AI is answering based on your specific holdings and allocations.
Is the AI going to offer advice in terms of specific stocks? Like if I say, hey, I got an extra 50 grand, I want to splash around in industrial stocks or, the Big Seven or Mag 7 or whatever they're called. Does the AI then say, hey, this might be a good time to sell some NVIDIA and buy some, Anthropic? Or are they going to say, You own tons of Chase Bank, maybe pair off some because you like dividends and buy, these four large regional banks and these are the ticker symbols. Is that something that could happen? Is there actual specific advice? Like, in the old days used to be stockbrokers would cold call people. I still remember when, stockbrokers would cold call, they'd get a list, a bunch of rich doctors or lawyers in Greenwich, Connecticut. Let's call them up and, tell them about, three stocks, get them in and, great. And now, they're a client. Is that something that the AI with 8 figures will offer as an option? Is it only offering mutual funds because those are deemed safer? And my hands are on ear quotes. How does that work with specifics?
Yes, we do offer advice on single name stocks. And for that reason, as part of our AI investment team, there is equity research AI analyst that does exactly that, does the fundamental analysis of single name stocks and can advise and suggest to, let's say, add something to the portfolio. But the more important is that since we don't have custody over users' funds, there is no incentive for us to offer specific like mutual funds or specific like structured notes or even specific stock names. We always try to prioritize users' best interest, and we always try to advise if we recommend adding something to the portfolio, we always try to analyze it in the whole portfolio context, not just separate. It's a great investment opportunity. Let's buy it. Let's make return. Well, does it fit your investment strategy? Does it fit your financial goals? Does it fit your overall portfolio diversification? We always try to analyze it in the portfolio context, and that's why it's so powerful. I mean, you can find other tools and instruments that might analyze a single stock in and out based on all the public information available. But then it's very important not only know if that particular stock is a good stock, but rather is it a good investment in your whole portfolio context? And that's what our AI team actually does.
I got it. And you hit it on the nose when you said that you guys don't actually have custody of, the accounts. My money is still in Schwab or Fidelity or Morgan Stanley, as opposed to the example I gave with the stockbrokers. They typically held your account and for them, it was all about action, buy, sell, because that's where, they made their money, so to speak. And they weren't looking for people to just, buy and hold forever. So yeah, that's actually a very good point. You guys aren't in control of the money. The money is still kept safely in the accounts that the customers already know, love, and trust. So that is a big deal. Talk to me about the business 8 figures. Is it already launched yet? Is it something you're still working on? Are you tweaking it? What's the game plan?
It's launched and it's available on App Store and Google Play. You can download the app. You can connect your accounts. You can get AI advice. So it's fully kind of operational. We are improving the quality of our advice almost daily. We are adding additional knowledge bases and databases to make sure our AI really knows like what's going on in the markets right now, can monitor all the news and so on. But it's everything is live. Everything could be tested.
Very interesting. Andrew, I had a good time talking to you. I like your background. I didn't get more into it exactly, which little city you're from and how many times you visited the US. I like those types of questions. I love hearing about people's travel. I like hearing about people's demographics. Is that the right word? Or sociology or, I just like hearing their story. And, if you're born somewhere else and you're, here in America, to me, it's just more interesting because I like to just hear about it, but I didn't want to get too into it on the podcast. Maybe privately, I'll start asking you questions. But Andrew, I had a very good time talking to you. Tell the audience where they could reach out to you, where they could find your company, how they could contact you if they want. I'll also put it in the show notes, but tell everybody.
Sure. Our website is 8figures.com. You can go there and check us out. For me personally, you can connect with me. I'm mostly on LinkedIn. I have an X account, but I'm mostly active on LinkedIn. You can find me there by my first and last name, Andrew Izyumov, Izyumov. And then also we have a YouTube channel where you can follow us, subscribe, ask actually questions in comments. I try to reply to every single one where I personally share all my investing experience from Goldman and as a private investor for people to, improve the financial education. I think it's very, very important piece of our mission here to really fill that gap. People were supposed to learn this stuff at school. Unfortunately, they don't teach financial literacy at schools. That's why we are trying to close that gap.
Yeah, that's a whole podcast series in itself about the lack of the financial education in school. I wish I knew or was taught just some basic things in school, something like a credit report. What helps a credit report? What doesn't help a credit report? Compound interest. I wish they taught me that when I was 6 years old, 7 years old. I try to teach my kids that. Some of my kids are big savers because of it, but it's a certain discipline. And, the more knowledge, the more better off we all are, especially at a young age. Andrew, it was great talking to you. Let me just tell the audience your last name. It's Izyumov, I-Z. I know you said the letter is Z because, you're a foreigner. And in America, we say Z.
Okay.
I learned that from one of my Canadian friends back in when I was in summer camp. Yeah, he kept saying Z, and I didn't know what he was talking about. Your last name is Izyumov. Andrew, we can find you on LinkedIn. It was great talking to you. For everybody else, if you made it to the end of the episode, please comment the word awesome so I know you made it to the end. Thank you very much. Andrew, I appreciate it. Please like, share, and subscribe. Have a great one.
Thanks a lot, Steven. And thanks everyone for listening.
All righty.